Welcome to another episode of Exploring the Vintage NFT Space podcast with Zero G. Today, I'm excited to have with me OG Rare Pepe artist, EverydayEarth. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Zero G. I'm excited to be here, and I've listened to a couple of your previous podcasts, and I can't quite believe that I'm at this point. It's great to be here.
A little bit surreal to be talking about some of your own work.
It is, and it's we can get into the kind of artwork and the origins and the anonymity, but this is the first, I guess it's the first official time that I've gone on record talking about my own Rare Pepe work. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking and going back through the archives to get ready.
Well, yeah, this will be a lot of fun. You created a ton of really memorable cards, and one of the ones that is one of my favorites that is affordable too is the FRYPEPE. But yeah, before we talk about your cards, let's kind of take a step back, and why don't you tell me about how you first learned about crypto, and then like got you to the point where you were willing to actually like take that next step and make your first purchase.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I have a very a collection-minded, a collector-minded personality, and I get into various hobbies. And I was writing down, you asked before the actual call, what's your background, when and where, and how did you get started? So I was big into Reddit. Actually, Reddit was the original thing that probably was the gateway to crypto. And I was part of the, have you ever heard of coin roll hunting, CRH?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was big into kind of like a crazy person. We had young kids at the time, and this was like my secret hobby. I would get these rolls of pennies and try to find wheat pennies, right? The Wheaties.
Yeah.
And other people try to find silver dimes and stuff. I never got quite that far, but I thought it was cool to find wheat pennies. And then I was also on the Silverbugs Reddit subreddit. So those two things, got me into the what's the phrase? The Newman. I can't quite pronounce it, but it got me into coins and coin hunting and coin collecting. So that was on the physical side. Oh, and I've always been a fan of like sports cards, right? So sport card trading and getting the graded cards. And it could be any sport: basketball, baseball, football. So I've got a mini collection that I'll probably hand down to the kids one day. So those were my those are my original hobbies. And then I was trying to go back through and figure out when I got pulled into crypto, and I think there was a company that started called ChangeTip. Have you ever heard of ChangeTip?
No.
Um, and I haven't quite figured out the chronology, but they were on Reddit. They were pretty active on Reddit. They had a subreddit called Bit Tippers. And I guess I'd always wondered whether you could give the kind of thumbs up, thumbs down, and Reddit had its own karma system. But I always wondered whether that would transition into a monetary back end, where you could actually send somebody a tip. And that, I think that's how it pulled me in, was that kind of caught my eye. And then I generally heard about the white paper and Satoshi and some of the buzz around that on Reddit again. And I can't remember how much I bought, but I bought a little bit on Mount Gox. And it was at a price where I can kind of remember waking up. I was sat with my coffee and I bought a little bit on Mount Gox, but it was like almost nothing, But the price of Bitcoin may have been around, it was either 100 or it was a couple $100. And I just wanted to see if I could do it. So I went on Mount Gox and bought a little bit. And then I was kicking myself because the price went up pretty quickly after I'd bought. And I was thinking, I could have been retiring early. But then shortly after that, everybody knows the story. So I remember thinking, well, maybe that was a really good thing that I kind of dipped my toes in the water, but I didn't throw a bunch of money at it. because of the way that imploded. And then I think shortly after that, I found this change tip and bit tippers. So I got pulled into that side of it.
Yeah, before you go forward, so did you leave your BTC on GOS? Did that get nuked in the implosion, or did you actually withdraw?
Yeah, it's still there. I actually got the letters from the settlement, the Japanese. You know, it was in like English and Japanese. I thought that would be a cool collector's piece. It's somewhere in one of my boxes in the closet, right? But that was as far as I got. It wasn't. I don't think it was enough where it would have been worth me pursuing it. So it's off in the ether somewhere. It's gone.
Man, that's rough. I know my first coins came from GOX. So I was lucky that I didn't, leave them out there.
Yeah. And then I can't quite remember. There were other ways that you could get, after that, I was like, well, there's got to be other ways to get it. And there was I think there was one called local Bitcoins.
Yeah.
And I did some transactions that way. So anyway, I scraped together like a small amount of crypto. But it was mainly getting into this, like, I kind of liked, I could see the social potential of it, right? This massive potential for sending somebody $1 or, even less, like $1. You could, through change tip, you could send somebody a coffee and it was like a couple bucks, so you'd be like, here's a coffee, and it would send them, that was all off chain. It would send them a couple of bucks. So I thought that was amazing. I was like, this is the future. And they ended up going a different direction and they kind of closed down shop, but I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, that's cool that you're originally into the that roll hunting and stuff. I had some I knew some people that were big into that for silver stuff, where they just do 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 at a time and just get it from one bank, go through it, and then deposit it at another bank. Kind of a fun hustle.
Yeah, it felt I went down the path of, I was like, oh, I'm never going to make any money because you have to go to Coinstar, right? And then there's the percentage. So again, on Reddit, somebody said, well, you got to find a bank that they have their own Coinstar machine where it's free. So yeah, I always felt weird though, going in with a Ziploc bag full of, zinc pennies and running them through the machine. But yeah, that was, like I say, that was kind of a crazy hobby that no one else in the family was into that. And
probably thought you were crazy.
Yeah. So I guess I don't mind sharing my background. I didn't grow up in the States. I live over here in the States, but I actually grew up in England. And I've been over here in the States for about 20 years. But the thing that broke that hobby, there were two things. So my wife said, when you were back in England, did you care about pennies? And I was like, oh, like, if she had come over to England and started collecting English pennies, I would have been like, this is really weird. So that was one thing. And then her mom actually gave me, she said, oh, I've got this old brown paper bag full of pennies that her mom had given her. So she gave me this bag and she was like, see if there's anything good in there. And it was literally the entire brown paper sandwich bag was full of like wheat pennies. So I was like, well, there's no point, that's there's no point continuing. I've already got every wheat penny I could possibly want. There are a couple of Indian heads in there as well, which was cool. So yeah, there you go.
That's funny. Yeah, it really puts another spin on it when you put it like that. Like, of course I wouldn't go to another country, and that's one of the things that's interesting about numismatics and coin collecting is it's very country specific. Like I don't know, like you don't normally see people from one country like collecting the currency of another one, except for odd cases, so
right.
Well, cool. Yeah. So you kind of got started there with off the tipping. So when did you like learn about the like counterparty and that whole like the whole crypto art scene?
Yeah. So I remember thinking like that it would be neat if I could actually mine, if I could set up a mining rig and mine Bitcoin or Dogecoin. I think I tried mining Dogecoin, if that was even a thing. Anyway, I had the client, right? And then I really fuzzy on the origins of it, but there was somebody reached out from Folding Coin, the kind of folding proteins,
Yeah.
Folding Coin thing, and there was an app called Folding at Home,
Mhm.
and my crappy laptop, like I got a Linux partition running on it, and I could just about use that Folding at Home. So I'd leave my laptop plugged in, and it would fold overnight, and you earned, I think the rewards were Folding Coin, FLDC, and I think that was on Counterparty.
Yeah, that's
FLDC, yeah. Yeah, so that was my introduction to Counterparty. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I really liked, getting back to that. It tied in with the social benefit part of it. It's like, okay, I can see the power of tipping people in this frictionless digital currency. And then I could really see the power of, okay, this distributed network of people that are solving, I think the proteins were for Alzheimer's. I was like, this is really neat, like they're making use of spare computing power. Now, obviously, it was burning electricity, but making use of that distributed computing power that overnight is just sat there, and they're curing Alzheimer's with it. And I just couldn't believe that that was even a thing. So that was, the next obsession. So I got a bunch of Folding Coin. And then a lady from that community said, oh, and kind of in parallel with that, I got on to a game called Moonga, Moonga, Moonga.
yeah.
It was a mobile game, and they started announcing that they were launching Spells of Genesis. That same company, that Everdream Soft,
Yeah.
Shaban Sharmeh. So those two worlds somehow connected, because I was like, well, I have to be into Spells of Genesis. They were talking about how they'd have their own native token, bit crystals. So I was doing the Folding at Home. I was following that Spells of Genesis project through Moonga that I played every day. And somebody who was in both communities, this lady reached out and said, they're going to do a thing where you can submit your own artwork. Yeah, you could have a card submitted to the Spells of Genesis. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I can do bit tipping, I can cure Alzheimer's, and then I can register my artwork in this game that I play. And it was just these three things that seemed to be really cool social projects that had this core technology in the middle of it all. So anyway, I jumped over to Spells of Genesis, and I actually created a couple of cards that, funnily enough, are in they are in, is it fake rares? No, yeah, they're in the fake rares now. Point Break CD, Point Break card was my that I thought that somehow that was going to end up in Spells of Genesis, and Shaban was like, I think we changed our mind. We're going to stick with the real artist. But that was my thing. So anyway, this same lady, okay, well, they aren't doing it, but Rare Pepe are doing it, where you can submit your artwork. So I jumped over to that Rare Pepe group, and that was my introduction. So that was kind of, everything happened very quickly. I got introduced to Counterparty, and then it linked in with this game, and then it linked in with working on these cards, artwork for it.
Well, that's really, really incredible. Did you start collecting the Spells of Genesis stuff at the time too?
Oh yeah. So I was an early quote unquote investor, where you reached a certain level and you got, I'm trying to remember if you got early access. I think you got early access to the swap bots. They had those swap bots on Tokenly. So I couldn't afford to get a bunch of them, right? But I would try to get one of each as they came out. But it was already, you talked about the manic, the market today can be very manic, and people try to bot the things, and you could already feel it even with those swap bots. They would sell out so quickly. But yeah, I got quite a few that way.
Well, that's cool. So, well, that's an interesting introduction to to Pepe. So yeah, it really called out to you to be able to have your own artwork. Um, I mean, that's it's definitely one of the things that makes that such a remarkable project is the breadth of artists and artwork that's there. Yeah. So how did you find your the process for your first submission? I see that the at least it looks like you had two in your in season four, which is pretty early on in the project. How did you find the process for that, and what's the story behind Hotline Pepe and Wanksy Pepe?
Yeah. So I was looking back through my, on your address, you can see the
Mhm.
issuances, and the very first one that I issued was Mona Lisa Pepe. So I registered that name. I was like, oh, this name would be amazing, right? The Mona Lisa of Pepe. So I registered Mona Lisa Pepe, and then maybe on the same day I registered Wanksy Pepe because I was like, I was a big fan of Banksy. Um, so I registered Mona Lisa and Banksy. I was like, those are going to be iconic artwork names if I can get them in the directory. And then I registered one called Rams Pepe. I can't remember what the idea behind that was because I never did it. And then Pepe Shift, and then Car Pepe, which was going to be Mark Carpele's, Kar Pepe.
Mhm.
And then shortly after that was Hotline Pepe. And for whatever reason,
Mhm.
I went with Hotline Pepe first. I think I was like testing the waters. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't really care about that one as much as Wanksy or Mona Lisa. So yeah, I threw that together, and it's the Drake meme, right?
Yeah.
So I was looking on my machine where I created all of these, and I sorted it by date modified. So the very first file it's called magic-template.jpg. So it was a Magic the Gathering template. So that's the background for Hotline Pepe. I think I just made it pink.
Mhm.
Um, can you pull them up? Can you pull them
Yeah.
up on the? Uh,
Yeah. I'm looking at them
yes.
right
So I got the Magic template, which was like 400 by 560 pixels. I think that was the
now.
right size that they were asking for. And then
Mhm.
I got an image of Drake. It says Drake Hotline Bling video Halloween costume.jpg. Um, so swiped that. And then I got the Pepe Cash. Something out of Pepe Cash ended up in there.
Yeah, the cards are
Uh,
actually like what Drake is throwing out. There are little Pepe Cash cards.
there you go. There you go. So there's
Yeah.
like he's throwing out 3 Pepe Cash cards. And then I combined it with another meme, which was the Bing meme, where it's you type in "no one uses" and the first result is Bing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like in the middle on the right of the card. Um, and then let me see. Oh, and I did them all. So I did all of them in GIMP. Um,
Okay.
I can't remember exactly what that stands for. Graphic interface, something. It's a rip off of
Yeah.
Photoshop, and I was like, okay,
Yeah. Open
I'm
source
just going to use.
Photoshop, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then so this file has like, I don't know, maybe 10 layers. So it's got all the text in there, and the money back guarantee is one of the layers.
Well, that's cool that you kept all your original. You kept all the original project files for all your cards.
Yeah, they're on that same machine that I used to use for folding at home.
Oh, sweet.
Uh, so, and then I thought it was a requirement back in the early days to with a mouse, to like hand draw the face. So Hotline Pepe, his face was like really badly scratchily drawn with the mouse.
Mhm.
Um, and I kind of quickly moved away from that with some of the later ones. But yeah, those are the layers that are in there. So you got the Drake meme, you got the Bing. I realize now that I have kids, I probably don't want to show them this one.
Yeah.
This is not my proudest moment. But I was like, okay, that's pretty funny, and it got through the scientists. You know, they blessed this one, and they were like, yeah, that's your first official one. So that one, yeah, that was like season 4, card 16.
Mhm.
And I don't think I was in there even close to season 1 or series 1, but
Mhm.
I was trying, right? I was in the Telegram group pretty quickly, and I was trying, but it went really quickly. I know that you've talked to J Dog and you know some of the other early scientists. It went Mike. It just went
Mhm.
really quickly. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going through and just looking at at for the seasons, and yeah, it just exploded. Um, and other people were saying how how quickly it took off as well. And the back then it sounded like the submission process was pretty quick too.
Yeah, yeah, and they were doing so much work. It wasn't even a. I don't think there was a form. I can't remember how you submitted them, but um, yeah, they were doing so much work, you know, handling all of those submittals. Um,
Yeah, well,
so then yeah, go ahead.
it's a great story that you actually registered Mona Lisa Pepe first before you even submitted the Hotline Pepe. Um, I always thought that that Bob Ross was a good inclusion into that uh, in that card too.
Yeah, I love. I'm a big Bob Ross fan, so you know, I think. Well, I know there's another one. There's another Mona Lisa
Mhm.
um, Pepe that is now like one of the all-time grails, right? And but at the time, and I think they ended up being pretty close to each other. If you look at Mona Lisa Pepe is season 4, card 20. Um, and if you look, let's see.
And just as an aside, while you're looking that up, so were you like you already like look to have some pretty decent chops with GIMP? How long had you been playing around with digital media before you kicked off on trying to make your own SOG?
Oh yeah, so always loved artwork, right? So I would paint and draw and sketch, but I got into website design. So I was designing, I had like a small company doing website designs.
Mhm.
So I would do logo designs and basically any graphics for the website. So I would use GIMP. Um, so you know, I was familiar with layering and doing all of that stuff. But the funny thing about Pepe is it taught me how to do animated GIF uh, layers in GIMP. I'd never done that before. That was something that I'd never done. So it actually enhanced my digital artwork.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up whenever we get to your next card, which is the Nas Pepe, because that's the first one that I saw the animation in.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see. So I was interested in seeing, was it?
I know which one you're talking about. The other uh, Pepe Lisa card. Um,
Yeah, Pepe Lisa. So and
mhm,
there's the Mona Pepe that you know people got angry in some of the later seasons because they said you can't have any kind of duplicates.
mhm.
And they were like, well, go look back at the early ones. You know, there was the Mona Pepe, there was Mona Lisa Pepe, there was Pepe Lisa. So there was a bunch of them. Um, and then it became a bit of a, you know, art as in, you know, in the eye of the beholder. And Pepe Lisa, rightly so, became the legend. Um, which one was Pepe Lisa? Like, how early was that one?
Let me see.
I used to
Maybe
know
I'm.
all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it wasn't called that, but it was another Lisa Pepe one. Yeah, it's Pepe Lisa. That was it. Yeah, so that was actually towards the end, Series 35, the one by Rare Designer. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
Rare
sure.
Designer,
Yeah.
and he's a legend, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
but so yeah, I guess in season 4, the other one was that Mona Pepe.
mhm.
Anyway, that's a sidetrack, but
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Yeah, I mean, there are duplicates out there, but again, they're just so like really different takes. So, like, I like the fact that yours has the Bob Ross in there too, and kind of make almost Wojackifying, the Mona Lisa too.
Yeah, and so it says on the card, it says, "We don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents." And then the power of it, the heart power is 808, so that's Bob.
Mhm.
And then R, which is, I don't know, resistance equals 055, so that's the Bob Ross on
Oh
the
yeah, I
power up.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's cool.
uh, and then Mona Lisa's face, I mean, she's kind of a low-key Wojak, right? She's
Mhm.
like an early female Wojak. And
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think you can zoom in. The resolution had to be pretty low to get it in the directory, but the face just made me laugh so much. It's like this, because everyone talks about Mona Lisa having this mysterious smile. So my version of it is like a monobrow Wojak's wife. Um, so anyway, and then it says, "Warning: staring at Mona, her name Lisa too long is bad, and you can lose your eyes for the entire game with a rare lemon wash."
Okay.
I don't know where, I can't tell you where any of this came from. It just made me laugh. I thought it was really stupid. So there you
Yeah,
go.
good times. Yeah, well, I think it's one of your standout ones. And your next one, the Nas Pepe. So I'm assuming this was probably a reference to that. Wasn't there that Will Ferrell like car movie back in the day?
There are a couple of Ricky Bobby references, right? I love that
Mhm.
movie. I think it's really funny. So yeah, Nas Pepe, um, I was trying to find the file. See if I can find the file because then it has the layers and everything in it. Okay, here we go. So yeah, the the face. So there's like a layer that has his face on it, right? And he flies in and does the wink. So
Yeah.
Pepe kind of he's driving the car. He's driving the Doge car, right? That was the number 98 Doge car.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you're right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was a tip of the hat to Dogecoin. Um, so I pulled in a layer that was it was the Dogecoin NASCAR JPEG. Uh, and kind of flipped that around, and I found I think it's the Indy 500 raceway, and called it Pepe Way.
Mhm.
And then yeah, the Ricky Bobby, it's instead of shake and bake, it's shake and Pepe. We got ourselves a race, y'all. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
that was the first animated, like frame by frame. Uh, I think my first version of it was just a still. It was like a still car. And then I thought it would be really cool if he drove in, winked, and then drove off. So that was the first animated GIF one that I did.
yeah. I'm a super noob in photo editing. How long did it take you to create that GIF? Do all those frames. Did it take you a while?
I don't even know. This was my obsession before, I'd wake up super early, get my coffee before anybody in the family was awake, and I had to drive into work, and I would just spend however long I could, like 30 minutes or an hour every morning. And it was like, let's try and do one a day. So it could have taken a couple of hours to get that down. It got easier though. I got better at doing the GIFs, and there's kind of a sequence, an order of events to doing it. Um, and I think my personal favorite is Little Bo Pepe.
Yeah.
That one was a combination of uh, two GIFs. So there's a comedian, a British comedian called, I think it's Bill Bailey, and he was on a show called, yeah, Bill Bailey. He's like a musician comedian. He was
Mhm.
on a show called Black Books, which is amazing. If you haven't ever seen that, it's an amazing
Uh,
British comedy show. But I think it was on that show he dresses up as Little Bo Peep, and he does that like like he's throwing his arms up
yeah,
in
yeah.
celebration. And then there's another meme GIF where a sheep knocks the fisherman into the lake. I was like, okay, this is the story. It's little Bo Pepe, and her sheep is like trying to impress. The sheep is trying to impress her, so the sheep goes and knocks this guy in the lake. That one, I spent so long doing that one, doing that one to get it right, and then getting the sheep kind of move across the bottom of the card. And people in the chat early on, there was this big debate. Well, not a big debate. There was like a low-key debate about are the sheep going forwards or are they going backwards? And if you watch it long enough, they start going backwards.
Oh yeah, your eyes play a trick on you just due to the cycling of that GIF.
Yeah, it's kind of a twister. It's weird.
Yeah, that was one of my early Pepe acquisitions that I really liked, that was affordable at the time. Yeah, I always thought it was super dank.
I love it, and there was a cleaner version of it. There was a much bigger file size, but they had a file size limit. So I ended up, I reduced the quality of it to where you could still see it, and it gave it that a little bit of a glitch.
Mm-hmm.
Which became like all the new like X copy and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of glitched artwork is a thing now. And even back then I was like, oh, I love that it kind of glitches. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. I was talking to a couple other artists, and like they went for the purpose, for the kind of a glitchy aesthetic too, even though they could have gotten a little bit more. And it turned out really well.
Yeah, I think it irritated me at the time that I had to lose some of the quality, but now I like it. Now I like that it kind of degraded it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a fun. And the other, uh, one of your other early animated ones was the Beetle Pepe, which is kind of a play on Antonopoulos, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that's another part of my history is I very quickly found the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast, and I listened to that religiously, like every episode. And it was just amazing. Like, so it was Adam B. Levine, Andreas, and was it Stephanie? And then there was a guy called Bitcoins and Gravy that had a spin-off. Anyway, I listened to every single episode of Let's Talk Bitcoin. And then I got, Andreas's book, and read that. And I just think, I mean, he's a genius. So I wanted to pay homage to Andreas. And I think it was coming up on Halloween. Whenever that one came out, was coming up on Halloween. I was like, oh, that'd be cool to have a one that combines Andreas with Beetlejuice, which is one of my favorite movies. So yeah, it has. I don't think he appreciated it. I remember sending it to Andreas. I don't think he really liked it.
No
Never
way.
got a comment. Yeah, never got a comment back. But it has one of his quotes in there that I thought was really powerful. Content creators now have a new way of financing their creativity without depending on advertisers or media channels. And then I changed whatever he said to Pepe's. Pepe's can help with the evolution of crowdfunding tools in global borderless massive systems for funding the arts and creative content. I can't wait, but please don't say Pepenopolis 3 times.
That quote ended up being, like you said, really prescient, because, since then we saw like basically some of these, WikiLeaks was one thing, but just for the arts and, creators, we saw like Patreon and some of these other platforms start to, start through like banning and moderating who they would allow based on, arbitrary, their arbitrary decision. So yeah, I mean, having a tool to do, funding and like you're saying, like micro tipping and stuff, that doesn't rely on an intermediary is super powerful.
Yeah, and he was speaking to that point that you brought up there, but I also saw this, through collecting things like sports cards, right? I like having the slabbed sports card that's graded,
Yeah.
and it's you can get a gem mint 10 well, every single Pepe is gem mint 10, and you can, you know, the provenance is, I mean, people have found ways to scam it, right? And they'll issue fakes and try to kind of scam people. But if you find the real asset, 100% proof that you know where it came from, you know how many were issued, and I kind of love that part of it. It's like,
Yeah. I mean, it's super powerful.
yeah,
I think a lot of people like kind of forget or take for granted that this is a really transformation in like art and art collecting. I mean, you know, you can look up the number of stories of these like super expensive paintings, legendary paintings that have been faked or stolen, and then you know you don't have the ability to like even with these like masters paintings, there's no way to be 100% sure on a lot of these. So like we had that what was that?
right.
It was like the what was it the was the highest sale ever was that like it was attributed in part to Leonardo da Vinci, I think, a few years ago, and then after
Yeah,
after the provenance was questioned, the like it basically went into wasn't displayed anymore. So I mean, you know, that's the beauty. Is not only can you verify it's authentic, but you can also track the history of ownership too.
right, right. And you know, another piece of it, I know there's the right click save as team that say,
Mhm.
what is the point? Like you can literally, I mean, sure, yeah, you can go save it and do whatever, but you can prove that you own one of these, and then it's always going to be there. So that painting that you mentioned is locked away in a seaport somewhere, uh, you know, and good luck trying to see it. So I just thought it was really amazing that not that any of these are comparable to that, but they're always going to be there. You can always prove how many there are. They're tied to, you know, they're almost 100% anonymous addresses, but they're tied to an address. So if you own it, you can prove you own it. I
Yeah,
just
I
think that's
mean,
amazing. It's a really, yeah.
it's huge. I mean, and the other thing too is I always thought was funny with those right click saver argument people is you know if you apply that to the traditional art world, it just shows how farcical it is. And I can order up a you know on Amazon a print, you know, a poster of pretty much any classic painting, and you know that the same as ownership of the original. Of course not. You know, it's
Right. Yeah, and
like
you know those people they could call their friends up and say, "Hey, come over. I want to show you all these JPEGs I've got on my hard drive." And I guess that would be okay, but that's the version you're talking about. That's the poster from,
yeah.
you know,
Let's
Amazon. Yeah.
let's go to the museum and let's take phone pictures of all the paintings, and then we own a copy of it. Ah, like okay, cool story, bro.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I'm looking at the order of them. The order that I created them is not the order that they show up in the series, because you would kind of throw as many as you could at the scientists, right? And then it was kind of random as to when it got approved and what order it would be. So I think I ended up getting uh, 5 into season 4, and it was Hotline, then it was Wanksy, then Mona Lisa came third, then Nas Pepe, and then Beetle Pepe. So those were my 5 that made it into that series 4.
Mhm. And
I kind of love all of those, all 5 of those for different reasons.
yeah, I know they're really cool. And you know, to your point, I I thought the Pep, you know, Beetle Pepe thing was, you know, well done. I didn't, you know, no offense. I'm sure there's no offense meant. Like you said, you sent one to him, so you know, oh well. What can you
Yeah,
do?
and it is not. I think I was trying to do it as a tribute, like how amazing he is. But that, I mean, if you come at it cold and just look at it, it looks pretty offensive. Like it's not a great portrait of Andreas. Uh, I mean, he's green with Pepe eyes and a Pepe mouth, and then he turns into Beetlejuice. So I if I was Andreas, I would not take it as a compliment. Somehow I thought, you know, in my early morning stupor, I thought, oh, he's going to love this. And yeah, who knows?
That's funny. Well, yeah, what's the story on the how do you pronounce the Pepe de Cru?
Pepe de Creux, yeah, or Pepe de Creux. So he is a famous piece of artwork again, right? Let's see if I can pull him up. Let's see. So he is it's actually the painter is Joseph Ducreux, French painter,
Okay.
and he painted that the meme of the, I don't even know what the meme is called, but it's, you know, where the, let's see. So he was born in 1735. And that painting is called Portrait de l'artiste sous les traits d'un marqueur. And I don't know what that translates to. What does that translate to? Anyway, it's a meme. So I thought it would be funny if I combined that with Rolling Down the Street in My Six Flow, you know, that,
Yeah.
the rap.
Mm-hmm.
So his background says, traversing down the boulevard in my 1764, sequestering damsels, reprimanding apostates. So that's my spin on some 1760s coolness mixed in with, you know, 1990s rap.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought was interesting is you know, it's full cover, like the full frame for the art. I can still see that you have the essentially the little borders that for the original template in there too. So you didn't, I know like it became more popular later on in the series to actually have some cards that didn't have the template at all in there.
Yeah, you can kind of, is it like ghosted in there?
I mean, yeah, you can see
I
the
forgot about that.
yeah, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, I guess yeah, you're right. It's ghosted in there. So that was like a transparency layer that I put on top. I thought it would be neat to go all the way to the edges, but still have that. You can hardly see it, but still have that border. And I think I think it's the Magic the Gathering
Mhm.
thing. But yeah, the wording is a tribute to Easy E.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the guys that was he was always in the chat and still is, DJ Pepe, right?
Yeah.
So I could already see that he was going to be bringing some of the kind of um, hip hop lore into it, and I've got my DJ Pepe, and I'm never going to sell it. That's one of the grails for me.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's one I'd eventually like to get myself. Yeah, and your next one I thought is another one of the like really fun, affordable cards, the Pepe Mint.
Yeah. So that, you know, Pepe du Creux,
Mm-hmm.
there are, I think it's one of 1,000, right? So I started playing around with, I'm going back looking at the issuances.
Yeah.
So I did a one of, Hotline Pepe was one of 2,000, Wanksy was one of 1,000, Mona Lisa was one of 100, but and I think Beetle Pepe was one of 100, but most of them I tried to make them pretty high issuance because I wanted them to be. I didn't think that was a high issuance at the time. I was like, okay, 1,000. You know, how many Jordan cards are there?
Yeah.
What's the most expensive one? There's probably more than 1,000 that are the top grade. So I was like, oh, that would make it reasonable. 100 seemed ridiculous. Like issuing only 100 seemed crazy. Like, why would you only issue that many? But yeah, they ended up, funnily enough, making them like a really affordable entry point. Once we got past the stage where everyone was just trading them with each other. So I like that. So do you have a Pepe mint?
I do, yeah. That was one of, you know, when I was first kind of playing around on the decks and figuring out um, how to use that with Free Wallet. That was one of my early pickups. It was affordable, but I thought was like super fun. Um, Yeah, I really
Nice.
like that card. Yeah.
So that growing up in England, we always it's Wrigley's Spearmint is the chewing gum, and that was like our. We had three regulars. There was Wrigley's Juicy Fruit, which sounds disgusting, but and then there was Wrigley's Spearmint and Wrigley's Double Mint. Those were our, playground chewing gum.
Yeah, I remember that as a kid too. I
Yeah.
I just thought we were talking about this earlier is I think it's really amazing. We're in early 2023 and you can still pick up some of these cards that again, like you said, we're talking like this issuance of 750. This is globally. That's all there ever is going to be. And you can still pick up some of these cards, like cool cards for less than $100. I think it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, Pepe du Creux is $45. Peppermint is $51 at today's price.
Yeah.
And it, it makes me think. I mean, so I know you've talked to other people about distribution. I got pretty bad about distribution. I kind of checked out. I got
Uh-huh.
burnt out on everything, checked out, and then some of these have horrible distribution. So Pepe Mint, and this is not. There's no strategy involved. Like I haven't held on
Yeah.
to these for any reason other than just like being lazy at setting up distribution. So how do you view? I know you can view distribution somewhere. Anyway, Pepe Mint. I think the top holder has 200 of those. And then the next is 109, 199. So the distribution sucks, right? But I'm not sure who that is, the person who has 200. That's pretty cool. It's not me, but
Yeah, so but did you hold back a decent amount of supply on most of your cards or just kind of tapered off as you went along?
not deliberately. Like the one of 100s. Oh, so I don't know whether you want to move. One of the ones that I actually accidentally got rid of every single one was Relax Pepe.
Oh,
So
yeah.
back in the when things started to blow up and the mempool was getting like the counterparty mempool was just getting overloaded. I don't understand. I'm not technical, so I don't understand the back end of it. But you couldn't get transactions to go through, and people were going crazy in the chat and kind of getting on the developers. When are you going to fix this? When are you going to reset the server? When are you going to clear the mempool? All this stuff. So I issued that Relax Pepe, which is like you can hardly see it, but it's like that moving background of a
Yeah.
waterfall.
Uh-huh.
So the waterfall is actually a GIF, and then Pepe is hugging his girlfriend in a kind of 1990s mall photograph.
Yeah.
Uh, but then the bottom of it is an atom bomb. So the atom bomb is going off, and then they're in the mushroom cloud. And it was like, look, things are crazy, but you can still relax. So
Yeah, that's
I,
cool.
yeah. So I was saying attack 0, life, everything, right? 88, 88.
Well, the next card I want to talk about is probably one of uh my favorites that you made. Um, Again, when I was a noob, I got one off through Emblem Vault as I was, kind of testing out the water. So I thought this, I still think it's one of the coolest ones is your FRYPEPE. Really, I love all the detail on it too.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really flattered that was your first Pepe.
Oh, it was one of them. No, but my very
One of them.
first one I bought Pepe Traders through a an Emblem Vault. But it was one of
Okay,
my first probably 10, you know.
nice, nice. Let me pull up the file for FryPepe. FryPepe high res. It says on my computer. So FryPepe. Yes, I'm going through the layers. So this was the first one I did that has a Digimon.
Uh-huh.
Instead of using the magic, it has the Digimon background. I was like, oh, that would be neat to bring in because I really, you know, Futurama was
Mhm.
a really cool show that I used to watch a lot. But I was like, okay,
And
I've got to bring in, yeah, good.
and you made it off of such a one of the most like longest lasting memes too. You know that 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 fry me that you use. So you picked a good one to base it off of too.
Yeah, and I liked it was a bit of a commentary on, I mean, at that point, right, that's season 5, and there were so many people in the chat, and there were these big debates about whether something was good or not, whether something was rare or whether it was dank. Those were the measures that the scientists used, right? That was their process, was to measure how rare it was and then measure how dank it was. And there were these big debates about cards that were coming out, like, oh, that's not rare, and it could have been because of the number that were being issued,
Mhm.
or even if somebody issued it and they said it was like a one of, what's the lowest one, like a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 20.
Yeah, there's
They
some
were
one of
like, it's not.
ones out there.
Yeah, and there was all these debates like, oh, that's not even dank enough to be that and it was kind of crazy that we were talking about this, but I was like, okay, I need to throw something out there that says it's a bit of a what's the a bit of a vibe check that says we need to step back and look at this, and it's kind of funny that we're all debating these memes. So I was like, not sure if it's rare or just everyone telling me it's rare. Um, and then people that were at that point starting to buy them, you know, their expectations were that it was going to go to the moon, but the reality was you might just be a bag holder. Um, so, and then susceptible to guff and fear of missing out, FOMO. Uh,
Yeah, which I think is really I thought it was a really good commentary too, because even today, you know, while there's still a market for, you know, people are still trading rare pepes, but it's super liquid to where if you like do get ahead of yourself, you can like really get wrecked because, you know, like there can only be one card on the market for a long time, and then if you know, you overpay for that, someone can just come in and dump 10 on the market or something, you know.
yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the again something, right. So it irritated me with Little Bo Pepe that I had to reduce the file size. This one, I don't know what happened with it, but it got, the quality of it is not great, right?
Yeah.
You can't really when you zoom in. But what I kind of like is like, um, you can have images and people are like, oh, it's fried, like you fried the JPEG or you fried
Mhm.
the image. So I feel like it's kind of fitting that it's FRYPEPE and he's a little bit fried.
No, that
Uh,
is good. Yeah. Yeah,
there's
because
some
there's a lot of
weird,
digital noise on there.
yeah, there's some noise around it. And at the time I was like, oh man, I wish because I've got the high res version, but it just, something went wrong when I submitted it, and it's kind of fried. But I feel like that's how it should be.
Yeah, one thing I've seen a couple people do, like Nathan Sonic, is he's issued as sub assets the high res versions of the files where when he still has them, which I think is kind of cool the for collectors to be able to see the, you know, it in its original quality.
Yeah, and I might do that. So I've done that. I haven't done that exact thing, but I have done some sub assets. I did one for uh anyway, yeah, I've done some that were like derivatives, and I've done them as sub assets and then just airdropped them to everybody, you know, at their time who had one. Um, I think that's really cool that you can do that. And DJ Pepe, I mean, you know, don't call it a dividend, but DJ Pepe pays out. I mean, there are so many sub assets that come through. Every now and then I'll like go into my wallet and see like a new DJ Pepe dot gold edition, or like, I love that he treats his fans well. So I've done a fraction of that, but I thought that was a really cool feature.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and anyway, yeah. So I really love Fry Pepe. And your other card, your next card too, is I always thought was really fun, the PEPECENT, you know.
Yeah. And it's P unit. Uh said by a guy that grew up in England. But anyway, so yeah, I liked him. That again, that was a meme that was used everywhere, right? It had Kermit the
Yeah.
Frog in the back seat, or insert something funny in the back seat. So I thought that would be cool to have a kind of a jacked Pepe in the back seat as he drives past. And I don't know whether you can. There's a way you can pause a GIF, but if you can pause it, do you know what it says on his tattoo?
No.
Okay, well, there was another meme back in the day called Spud Life, and it's a play on like Thug Life, but somebody got a picture of a baked potato tattooed on their arm, and it said Spud Life. So that's Pepe's like on his bicep. That's his Spud Life tat as he drives
Oh,
past.
nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
that's
you go.
fun. Yeah. Um, your next one too, I thought was pretty cute. The Fun Pepe as well.
Yeah, so the present day, right? If we fast forward to present day, this is a very topical one because my kid actually designed this. My son designed this when he was little.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
he drew that thing, and because they were both of our kids would watch me do this stuff, right? Eventually, it reached the point where I was sat at the dinner table working on this artwork, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing, Dad?" So they would come and join in, and he wanted to do one, so he sketched. I think that's supposed to be me, the guy with the beard, uh, and then the kind of almost like a feminine looking Pepe, right, with the big eyelashes, and he's saying, "Feels good, man." So that is 100% his card, and he helped me pick out the little stickers that are on there, the balloons and
Mhm.
the party hat, and we kept it simple, and we said that the holder of that card has maximum fun. Um, I can't remember where 386 came from. There was some meaning to the number of 386, but anyway, it's a present day thing because he he figured out that I was selling these things, and he was like, "So how much money?" It's supposed to be like a college fund or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Mhm.
he was like, "So how much have I made?" So I had to come clean and tell him how many had sold, and he ended up buying. He bought some Pokemon and a Nerf gun, and then we had to explain. Well, it's not the full amount. You still got to pay tax and all that stuff. But um, so that is his card. So every day, pretty much, he's like, "Did you sell any more Fun Pepes?" Um, so that is a constant reminder.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Uh, could wait to monetize that card, could he?
No, and I do wonder. I mean, it's pretty interesting exposing the kids to this because they get into the computer science part of it and the digital
Mhm.
artwork and the economics of it, right? They're like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I can actually make something and sell it in this almost frictionless way. So I hope it's educated them on some of this stuff. I'm excited to see what they do with it once they get old enough, to do some of this stuff by themselves.
Yeah, like you said, I think that's a cool introduction to like like the economics art, but also just teaching them how to hustle and get things done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So and it makes me very proud, right, that it's out there.
Yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
so that
Um,
that is one of my favorites.
yeah, I always thought that one was really cute. I didn't know the story behind it though. That's even better. And your next one would be Monty Pepe, which would be the Monty Python reference, right?
Yeah, so I love so speaking about my kids, when I hit that kind of early teenage years, my friend got me into Monty Python, and we would watch Monty Python for hours and just be like, where your stomach hurts from laughing so much. So uh, that was just something I wanted to do. I wanted to throw that out there. And Terry Gilliam, that kind of animation artwork that he did
Mhm.
was, we just loved it. Like we thought that was amazing. So I wanted to tie that in. So it's Monty Pepe's Flying Circus. and then it's their catchphrase was "and now for something completely different." So it was on the card. It says "and now for something completely dank." I feel like that one's kind of slept on.
Yeah.
It's only one of 100, but it doesn't get a lot of attention.
Yeah,
But yeah, I like that one.
it's one that always kind of stands out for me too. I thought it's really cool. And your next one, which would be the Caquette. I know that back then there was a lot of a lot of memes around the the Egyptian references to Kek and whatnot.
Yeah, and so ground beef taxi. That's Robness, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, so he would always be in the chat with like all caps, and I think he was kind of the originator of I'm going to get crucified if this is the wrong law, but I feel like he was one of the originators of the CAC law. Now, because CAC was LOL, right? That was it was like laughter, right? CAC. So, but then he kind of started to create this, and people jumped on it pretty quickly, creating this side story that was all the Lord CAC stuff. So I thought it'd be cool to bring in the female side of it. And I was thinking this was maybe Lord Kek's wife, like Kekat was the day ruler. So that one was like a hand sketched. I've still got the hand sketch somewhere, and I did hieroglyphs to go with it. I wonder if I've got that one. Got it on the computer somewhere. So yeah, and then it's kind of a papyrus background. But I really like the way that sketch turned out. And I don't know where it is. It's somewhere. I've got the physical, like a sketchbook where I would draw all of these initial ideas, and it's still in there somewhere.
So did you scan that in and like digitize the drawing, or did you use the sketch as something to reference when you were doing it in GIMP?
So what my process was super basic. So I would like sketch it out in this little. It's like one of those. Is it Moleskine? One of those Moleskine sketchbooks, and do it in just kind of fine line ink. So pencil and then ink, and then I would literally take a photograph of it with my phone, and email that to myself, and that became the base layer. So I would like increase the contrast and pull out the lines. And then in GIMP, you can kind of select by color. This is so basic. It's kind of embarrassing describing it, but select by color and then grow the selection where there's a thicker line. So I'd kind of grow that selection. I think I got to the point where I was creating paths. I was using the path tool. So it kind of smoothed everything out a little bit. And then that gave me the outline. And then in GIMP, I would do, bucket fill for all the colors. And it just ended up, it would come out really crisp. So that was the process on most of these.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean it definitely is a good looking card too. Yeah, and your next one, the DeLorean Pepe, is a fun one too.
So yeah, so there's a big backstory behind this. So folks that were getting, if you were an actual artist doing your own artwork and issuing them in the directory, there were quite a few people that wanted to be a part of it, but didn't, either didn't want to or didn't feel like they could do the artwork. So they would reach out, and there was the birth of like commissioned pieces. So it was almost like a freelance, the back channels on Telegram became this freelance artwork marketplace where they would go around asking the various artists like, hey, I've got this really cool asset name. Do you have any ideas for the artwork? Like, what could you do? And somebody, I can't remember the guy's name, but somebody messaged me and they said, this is not Rare Pepe, but we're going to do a book. So they were going to do this book about, a character called Lord Bloxchild. I don't know where, like, I don't know where the idea came from, but they were going to do a book, and it was loosely tied in with the history of crypto. And Lord Bloxchild was going to take the reader through this story. And there was a scene where he meets Pepe. So he goes like Back to the Future, and he meets Pepe, and they fist bump. So that graphic in there is, you know, it was like a half commission, but the guy never went anywhere with it. There was a series of those. There was like Oprah Winfrey, where she says, "You get a car, you get a car," and she was doing something. And there was like David and Goliath. There were like a whole series of them that, like, it took a bunch of time, but he said, like, I'm not going to, he paid for them, but he was like, I'm not going to do anything with them. So I said, well, do you mind if I issue this as a Pepe? So we did DeLorean Pepe. So it's kind of a low-key collaboration, right? He had some of the ideas. So that's why it says Pepe fist bumps Lord Bloxchild after world domination.
Okay, yeah, that I wondered what the Bloxchild reference was for, so that makes sense now.
It's really obscure, and I'm not even sure you can find anything. Like, if you Google, I haven't even tried. I'm not sure if anything comes up, but that was his project idea, and I thought it was a cool idea, but it
Well,
never went anywhere.
I love the face you got on Pepe doing the fist bump. I think that turned out really well too.
Yeah, he's like excited, right? And he's
Yeah.
the businessman. And then the 2009 to 2140, that's the first block and the last block that will ever get mined for Bitcoin.
With the block reward, I see.
Yep. Yeah. So that was a time. I don't know whether, you know, you'd have to debate. Is he going back, like the picture there? Is he back in time at 2009, or has he gone forwards to 2140? Like, or is it somewhere in between? You got to figure that
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, and you know, another one of your cards that I thought is kind of slept on too is your Pepe Rogan, which, you know, I'm still really amazed that you know, is so affordable for, you know, again, Joe Rogan the most by he's only become more and more popular and is still the number one podcaster in the world, and arguably one of the most significant independent media or independent personalities out there. You know, he's weathered a lot of criticism and has exposed a lot of truths that were censored in the mainstream press. So anyway, like I said, I think you did a good job on it too. I like the animation there.
Yeah, it almost doesn't show up, right? The animation is just the third eye, kind of slowly looking left and then right. So that was one, like I hand drew the Rogan, and I tried to get all his tattoos in there. And I remember feeling like a moment of panic when that got into season, was it series 22?
Yeah.
So it was one of the later seasons, and I had this moment of panic because I've stayed, you know, pseudo anonymous through the whole thing. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrible if it blows up. If Rogan starts talking about it, it's going to go crazy. And I'm honestly pretty happy that it never happened. I think other people, I never tried to send it to him, but other people tried sending it. Because I registered both. I registered Rogan Pepe and Pepe Rogan. And then this was the one that got in. A funny, like a recent thing that tied back to this. You know, Daniel Got Hits.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, he's big on Twitter. He did something with a Rogan card. He issued like a Rogan card.
I remember that. Was it
And then
last year or
some,
the year before? Yeah, during the
yeah, and it got pretty popular. It got quite a lot of attention, right? You got like a lot of people were interested in it, and I think I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, this is really cool. Can I have a copy of it?" And I was like, "Oh, by the way, you know, I did the original Pepe Rogan if you want one." So we kind of traded, and he like sent out a tweet and said, "Oh, look, here's a here's a throwback. You know, one of the original Pepes had a Rogan. Total Pepe optimization. So yeah,
Yeah.
at the time, like I say, I was listening to Let's Talk Bitcoin, but I think everybody was listening to Rogan back at the time when that came out.
Yeah, well, again, I'm really surprised that it's, still slept on. But I think you did a good job with the with for hand drawing it. It turned out pretty good.
I think it's Pepified, right? It's got the Pepe eyes and the mouth, but I think ironically it looks more like Rogan. I think
Yeah.
it still looks like him.
Yeah, exactly. You can still tell who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely good times. Um, in terms of your Ricky Pepe is I think one of your like the one like you did best in terms of making it super crisp. That one always really like pops. The way you did the highlights around the character.
On which one?
Ricky Pepe. I don't know. For some reason, it always
Oh,
really
Ricky.
pops. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how. There's kind of like a 3D effect, and I think it's
Yeah.
like the flag in the background has an element of shadow to it, so that shadow rolling through
Hmm.
like makes it makes the Ricky Pepe jump out. So he is on his. There's some Easter eggs in there, right? On his sponsorship,
Hmm.
he's got Pepe. I'm trying to remember what the original. I'd have to pull up that original image for Ricky Bobby. See, but all of his sponsors are Pepe related. So let's see. His original was had Dennett Motorsports. That became Pepe Motorsports. And then he has Wonder Pepe instead of Wonder Bread. And he's got Pepe Aid instead of whatever it was, Gatorade. Powerade.
Oh yeah,
Powerade
yeah.
became.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering what that logo used to be, and it's that old Powerade logo.
Yeah. So anyway, that was funny. But yeah, those are the two, right? So there's Ricky Pepe and Nas Pepe.
Yeah.
And I am not like I don't want anyone to think, oh, this English guy thinks he knows about NASCAR because I have hardly ever watched any NASCAR, but I am a Ricky Bobby fan. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, it's a good card. Your another one that I think is really slept on is your and I'm probably gonna butcher it, like the pronunciation. This is something I've never actually heard someone pronounce, but the Pepe Van Eck. I've seen the original painting that's based on, and that's there's very few of the fine art Pepes that are affordable today, and that's this is one of them that I think is slept on, and I love the fact that um, you also included the Wojak and Doge in there too.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's I don't know how to pronounce it either, but that's by Jan van Eyck.
Okay.
And let's see. So yeah, that's a famous Van Eyck painting. And something we haven't talked about. I like to leave Easter eggs in the X chain or the XCP descriptions, right? So
Mhm.
for that artist, for Jan van Eyck, in the description of that card, I'm going to pull it up. We've kind of changed X chain a little bit where it's harder to see the information. Sorry, this is like you're gonna have to cut out. There's a bunch of dead air. But anyway, the description says, "I'm from Bruges." That's in Belgium. So
Mhm.
I think Jan van Eyck was from Belgium.
Mhm.
But I thought it was a funny tie-in with oh my gosh, Mike Myers. What was his? Oh, Austin Powers reference, right? Where he's like, "I'm from Bruges." That's in
Okay.
Belgium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like a Loki Goldfinger reference.
Mhm.
But yeah, in the background, the mirror, because it's like the thing about the iconic thing about that painting was light, and then the fact that he got the mirror in the background that reflects the back of the people that are being painted. And then I think maybe you can even see the artist himself. It's almost like a self-portrait in the mirror. So that became, that had to become the Pepe Cash, the Pepe coin, Pepe Cash symbol in the background.
Yeah.
And then another Doge reference is the how do you say it? Shiba Inu.
Yeah.
So there's a shibe instead of the whatever the original dog was that they had in that painting.
Yeah,
They've got like a little.
Yeah, definitely a fun card.
Yeah, I tried to leave Easter eggs, and then again, it's Wojak, right? So there's this strange theme. I don't know where this stuff comes from, but it's Pepe and it's the Wojak wife.
Yeah.
And then obviously Wojak became its own project, right? There's a whole series for that. Yeah, the Wojak way, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we already talked about your initial foray as trying to make a SOG card. So you have that as now as a season 0 fake rare, but I also see that you have your own like normal edition fake rare as well. Do you want to talk about Pepe Shift?
Yeah, so I really liked the stuff that Shapeshift were doing. Once there were Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and then all the counterparty assets. And I really liked what Shapeshift, as Eric Voorhees, was trying to do with creating a kind of a frictionless way to switch between those markets. And obviously now you've got things like emblem vaults where you don't even have to switch, you can just embed the thing. But I was fascinated by that technology of the stuff that Shapeshift were doing. So it became Pepe Shift was that card. And then can't remember the reference because it's a fox. He's like, I think maybe Shapeshift had a fox as their icon.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then funny thing about this, if you want to own a Nakamoto, so were you saying you own a Nakamoto now?
I do, yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, that's amazing. But like, if you want a low key way to own a Nakamoto, he's in this. There's it says hot, 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 and then it switches, so it's shifting between cards, right? So the first one that comes up says Rare Pepe directory. It's Pepe Cash, then it's Nakamoto, then it's Lord Keck, and then it's back to it actually shows the fake rare guy where he's opening his
trench coat.
Yeah, his French. Thank you. Yeah, his trench coat, and he's showing you all the fakes that he's got. It says "Beware of fakes." So,
yeah, it's a that the shapeshift thing. I think they've been forced to kind of go down some KYC light or some sort of reporting, but that idea has become kind of ubiquitous. There's a ton of those essentially exchangeless front ends out there that it makes it's a big improvement on the user experience for sure, to not have to like send coins to an exchange and wait for it to confirm and then withdraw and all that kind of.
Yeah, and this was a bit of a commentary on that as well, right? Because they were being, like you say, they were being forced down that path. So the powers of this, it says KYC equals 0, AML equals 0. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for them, right? That they had to start to comply with that. And I think the background is New York, because that was always kind of the middle of some of the controversy.
Yeah, like New York always had the absolute worst. They have that like license and all the most restrictive stuff going on there. I think the last I remember reading about Shapeshift, I think it was Shapeshift, that they were trying to move towards a decentralized DAO to kind of get away from some of that, but I hadn't followed them since.
Yeah, I think you're right, and same kind of thing. I haven't really kept up with it, but yeah, I think they were moving to that model. This was submitted, right? The actual the rare scientists rejected that. This was an original reject.
Oh, was it? From back
so
in the day?
these two, Yeah, it's kind of funny that Point Break CD was rejected by Spells of Genesis, and then Pepe
Mhm.
Shift was rejected by the Rare Pepe directory. So they live next to each other now as fake rares,
Oh, that's
uh,
cool.
keeping each other company.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, and you know the you have a danker that you put out that goes really well with your FRYPEPE. Uh, you know, and I was super enthused to when I cracked my vault, I already had you had airdropped this to some of your FRYPEPE holders. So because I was gonna actually go out and buy it because it's a cool dank rare too.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that so every now and then I'll get back on Telegram, and I'm glad I saw your message, but I'll get back on Telegram, and there'll be um some folks that are still trying to trade or see if there's a deal. Hey, you still trading? Are you still doing a deal? But I'll get pulled back into the chat, and I feel guilty because I know that there's a core group of people that have always been on there, and I just kind of moved away from that. I didn't maintain staying in the community, but they were doing all of the dank rares, and somebody asked me, like, why don't you do one? Like, why don't you do a something? And I think the flavor at the time was all Bobo.
Mhm.
And I wasn't even aware of what that Bobo meme was, but I thought, okay, maybe if I just do a tribute to FRYPEPE, and I'll make it, uh, instead of Digimon, it's a Bobomon background.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, it's funny. I saw like the proliferation of those Bobos, and I don't even understand the meme either. So, but I just know for some reason it really took off in Dex for a while.
yeah, so he's that Bobo face. I actually went and found it. I got lazy. I didn't draw that, but I
Mhm.
found it, and it was a like a spin-off of Wojak called Soy Jack, but he's a Soy Jack Bobo. And as I say this, I really don't know if this could be completely offensive to somebody, but I found that bear. I was like, oh, it's cool. It's a bear face, and it seemed to line up with Fry. So
Mhm.
that's the guy. And I added some kind of shaking back and forth to line up with the GIF. And
Yeah.
then obviously his toast. I can't remember what it's. The original GIF says something obviously different. It doesn't say Bobo on the toast,
Mhm.
but yeah, his expectations are toast, but his reality is Bobo toast, and it says keep away from water and bootleggers. Um, that was a ref. There was like a bunch of drama in the chat whenever I jumped back in, that people were trying to bootleg old designs
Oh,
and
really?
and claim them as their own. Um, So I was like, okay, I'll do a riff on one of my own designs and say you got to beware of bootleggers.
Oh,
So there you go.
I didn't know that was a people were trying to crib old artwork.
It was this weird thing where I think they were issuing. I think the art was in making people angry, so they would reissue a quote unquote derivative, which is fine, right? The
Yeah.
artwork is all derivative. They would reissue a quote unquote derivative of a card, but it would literally be the same design, and it made people really angry. Uh, but I think that was the point. I think that was the artwork. uh, so I can't quite remember the specifics, but I was like, okay, I'll throw that in there just as a tip of the hat to the bootleggers.
Yeah, I didn't know that was going on, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely one. So you know, so your last OG was in season 26, and did you just kind of like move on at that point? Um,
Yeah, like I say, I really got burnt out on the whole thing. Like
mhm,
I think I was just ready for something else, and we were focused on family and
mhm.
um, focused more on the kids, and this was just taking up so much of my time, and I just realized I was thinking about this stuff way too much, uh, and it um, it it kind of ruined it for me. The having to deal with the tax side of it all. It's so difficult with um, counterparty transactions. When you have so many, I mean, you end up having hundreds of these a year, and I I did it the right way. I went and figured out what I owed on every transaction, but that just burnt me out. And I was like, I can't do it. You know, I can't. It was like a full-time job, and I already had a full-time job. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. I mean, I know what you like. I know what you mean, though. Sometimes you have to, with IRL stuff, you have to kind of put some of the crypto stuff on the back burner for a while. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is. I mean, the nice thing is that it'll always be there whenever you come back. So, um, so are there any projects or anything that you're working on now that you want to talk about?
Well, for the longest time there, the most recent thing, I got back into Twitter, and a lot of the
Mhm.
folks that were in the original Telegram chats are on Twitter. So I thought it was amazing during lockdown to listen to those. I mean, Clubhouse came out, right? So people were
Mhm.
listening in on Clubhouse, and that kind of the new generation of Twitter Spaces,
Mhm.
where it's like community audio. That fascinated me. So I got pulled back into Twitter, listening to those Twitter Spaces, and a lot of them segued into just art discussions. So there would be like actual NFT discussions, but it was artists that were talking, and that pulled me back in. And I thought, yeah, I want to get back to creating just you know artwork, and what does it mean to me? Because it used to be a big part of my life was working on music and artwork, and the day job has just kind of squashed that. So um, the town we live in has like a little tiny art gallery, so I started exhibiting some things up there, and yeah, I've just generally gotten back in. There's nothing really, no websites or anything that I really want to share, but uh, you know, every now and then I'll drop in and throw something out on my Twitter, EverydayEarth, of just stuff that I'm working on, kind of in a relaxed way, not even really trying to sell anything. But I think there was a series. Have you heard of Gabe Weiss? Um, he has a series called The Stoics.
Oh,
Uh, and I really like those, the Stoics NFT. So I started doing some like pencil and ink, and maybe watercolor sketches that were kind of Stoic related.
mhm.
Um, so those were a couple of my recent designs. Um, but yeah, that's it. Just kind of every now and then checking in with the community, and I just think it's fascinating. This podcast, I kind of see it as my kid designed Fun Pepe,
Mhm.
and I kind of see it as a way of leaving something where he can go back and listen to the history behind some of these. If they end up having a life of their own, he can go back and listen to this. So
Yeah, I was
I
to ask you, how's it feel looking back? You have, a significant contribution to that OG Rare Pepe project, which I think is kind of a big deal.
How does it feel looking back? Yeah, I don't think any of us thought it was going to be what it became. I mean, 2021 was a crazy year. So I got pulled back in by Shaban Shame, the Spells of Genesis, the Everdreamsoft
Mhm.
um, uh, company owner. So he actually tagged me in a tweet, and it was a deck. It's like a Spells of Genesis deck, right? And I traded away or sold all of the cards that were in that image. And he tweeted at me, and he was like, "Hey, that deck you had would be worth, XXX amount of dollars, like a lot of money." And I looked at the tweet, and I was like, "Oh, there was a Satoshi card, an
Oh
FD
man.
card. Yeah, it was like a lineup of like the dream Spells of Genesis cards, and I'd literally gotten rid of all of them. Um, so that pulled me back in, and I started thinking, well, I wonder if these things are worth anything. So that was where I think people rediscovered Pepe, and it was a mixed feeling. I felt really proud that I'd been part of that, and then it felt very strange as well that I think we had accidentally nobody called them an NFT back in the day. Um, we were just registering memes on a counterparty blockchain, and we thought it was funny and cool and kind of fascinating and really just an amusing pastime for me, at least. Maybe other people were already taking it much more seriously, but yeah, it's a snapshot. I guess the other thing is it's a snapshot of memes and culture from that 2015 2016 timeframe. It's kind of interesting to see that you can go back through the whole collection and see what the hot topics were, right? What were people dealing with back then?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that's really cool. And that's even continuing with the modern projects too, is they're always like capturing whatever's topical and going on in the crypto community and crypto culture. So like you said, it's cool to be able to look back and see, some of the stuff that was going on, and just even like your example of like people doing the bootlegs back in with the danks, I mean, just capturing that and that whole story. So it's fascinating. And to me it one of the things I think is really, well, like people miss out on too, is that these are the only like lasting like concrete in a virtual sense, like the only lasting relics of this crypto culture as it was emerging, right? So this
Right.
is it. you know it's really powerful. I mean, especially if you believe and are passionate about the benefits um, and basically believe in crypto and for the possibility, the positive benefits that it can bring society.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, on that note, I'd kind of forgotten actually just when we were starting to come out of lockdown, I got inspired to create a new series. So if you go on OpenSea, they're not counterparty native, but they have counterparty. I'm not even sure what you would call them. I registered the assets on both, so I did like an OpenSea registration and a counterparty registration of the assets, and it's a series called Maskamoto. So it's Nakamoto, but he's wearing the surgical mask. So those are out there on OpenSea. I think I did 12 or 11, let's see, 10 designs. So that was my most recent kind of endeavor where I got back into it. And they're a mixture of like AI motion.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have got laser eyes. So that was my kind of dipping my toes back in the water of creating again on blockchain.
And speaking of, I was just thinking about this the other day, and you just reminded me of it. One of the assets I picked during the lockdown, I thought was very prescient, is I picked up this one called myocarditis. You know, again, at the time it was controversial to actually have a little bit of, you know, discretion or question, government policy and all that stuff in regards to the vaccine. I thought that was a cool, and I was able to get for like $20 or whatever it's minted during that during the lockdown. I thought was, again, kind of captures that too.
Yeah, it's a moment in time, right? And it puts you back, like looking at these cards, it puts me back in the mindset of everybody was scared, scared for kind of elderly relatives and scared for your kids, and then after that kind of thinking about ourselves, right? Is this going to impact whether I can work? It was a pretty terrifying moment in time. And yeah, I like that looking at some of those images, it puts me back in like when you listen to a song, you listen to music and it puts you back in the place and time. I think that artwork does the same thing, and that's a pretty powerful thing. And if you weren't there, then it kind of makes you want to dig into the story. You might look at one of these images and say, I wonder what inspired the person to create that image and what's the story behind it. So for the next generation, it kind of puts them back in maybe is a more interesting way of researching history.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, I know you're kind of pressed for time. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap it up?
I was going to ask you, so you know, you've had the chance to interview a bunch of folks. Um, what's been your biggest takeaway? What have you enjoyed most about talking to some of the folks who were in those early days?
Yeah, it's funny. There's a couple of commonalities I see. I mean, a lot of the people were just having fun, but there's quite a few that actually, like, believe it or not, saw had the vision from day one. Like, knew that this was actually something important at the time. I mean, personally, I kind of regret missing out because of the whole counterparty scene. I wasn't aware of counterparty at the time, and I was, dealing with my own IRL stuff at the time. But this would have been up my alley. But um, I guess what my takeaway is, it's given me even more appreciation for the project. And just like, one of the things that sets Rare Pepes apart for me is that again, that from a lot of the other projects that came later, is that there was really no financial incentive. Instead, it was just having fun.
Yep.
Later on, a lot of Ethereum stuff, they were trying to make money or turn it into a business, or be responsible, whereas this was just people having fun, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
exploring technology. So yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's given me even more of an appreciation for it. And and like I said, it gives me a little bit more perspective around the artist. Like you had to dip out of crypto for a while. I've taken periods of time where you have to, like, deal with your IRL stuff and keep focus on it. But and yeah, it gives me a better perspective for the artists, and where they're at too. I mean, I also think it's amazing to um that you guys have that legacy, right? So I missed out on the OG rares, but I paid that commission, like my own fake rare, because I wanted to, like, even though I couldn't, it was too late to have an OG rare. I was to get my own fake rare in the directory, which to me was a big deal. So I'm stoked about having my own card in the directory there.
That's awesome. Which one is yours?
It's called They Live Pepe. I'll shoot you the link after. We'll show it to you after we're
Yeah, yeah.
recording.
I'd
It's
love to.
I don't have
I'd love.
the trust like you do with and some of these other artists do. So I commissioned it, um and they did a fantastic job on it. I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Well, I love that. That was one of my favorite. After getting over the initial thrill of getting your own design in there, I really enjoyed, being, like I say, that kind of freelance artwork. It was really fun, and I think probably all of the deals that I made were, once it gets issued, they would just send you some of the supply, and I was like, that's such a cool way of working, right? Where else does that exist?
Yeah.
Um, you get like, I'll send you 10 cards if you design it. I was like, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. So that part of it was really fun. So we needed folks to reach out and do that. That gave me a lot of joy back then.
But I guess the other thing I'd take is that to your question, I'm even more passionate about, like, Rare Pepes and some of these other, and not just Rare Pepes, but these other vintage projects for going forward. I think, like I said, these are more significant than just like memes. It's the again these are the artifacts of this, like, huge transformation that we're undergoing right now. And I think going forward, crypto culture will be recognized as, as influential as it has been. I mean, it'll be even more widely recognized for the kind of a crucial turn and towards society's like, need to adopt open systems and decentralized systems.
Right, right. Yeah, that whole movement. I think, well, the thing I struggle with is it's made changes that we'll probably never even understand the impact of. This kind of accumulation of small projects that you can go back and research. I mean, it has like far-reaching impacts on everything, every aspect what we're doing and how we think about things. And you know, even to the point of the IRL art museums having to, they've reached a point where they're like, we have to adapt or die, right? They have to embrace digital or become completely irrelevant. And I don't think anybody was really going to the Museum of Modern Art website, and now they get these massive numbers of visitors to their website. So it, yeah, it's had these really strange secondary and other effects, you know, beyond what we thought we were doing, if we thought we were doing anything.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
yeah,
I think like you said, I think it's going to take like it's a lot of these longer term consequences we won't even be around to see it fully flesh out. I mean, for people, I mean, and I think part of it is going to be, you know, the era that you were born in, and if you were already in crypto at the time. I think at least for me, and I think probably for some other people that are in crypto art, I would like, as dumb as it sounds, maybe I would feel more comfortable spending, you know, theoretically, it's not like I'm rich, but like $100 million on, you know, like the Nakamoto or something than I would on a piece of IRL classic art. Again, just because I know the, you know, I can cryptographically verify its provenance, whereas, you know, there's history is rife with, um, and but also, you know, again, it's capturing the culture itself that you're not capturing with the um these old traditional artworks. So like you said, it like we're like these museums, these collectors, these collections are being to adapt to this culture, right? So I
yeah.
think that's, and I
And
guess the,
I think I was going to say, bringing it back to, you know, the FRYPEPE, that kind of commentary of not sure whether it's rare or everybody telling me it's rare. I think that has been a big part of gallery culture, and you know, the art scene is oh, you wouldn't understand, like this is priced this way because we tell you that it's rare, you know. And that doesn't fly when it comes to digital artwork.
exactly, yeah. I mean, that's a great point. There's no, I'm not like the most educated person in art, but I've seen, you know, you can see some artists that I don't think have a tremendous amount of talent that have the, you know, they've kind of built themselves up into a marketing machine versus some of these independent artists that aren't as well recognized that, you know, can't get any sales. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, it's fascinating. And I guess my point is, it's reinforced my view that you know, these NFTs have another valuable role in that, you know, these have been the cat and get normies to dip their toe and open up a wallet for a lot of crypto. And it's my belief that, you know, it is really urgent that we get as many people into the crypto ecosystem as possible before we see CBDCs ready for mainstream. So we have, you know, working and viable parallel systems. You know, we saw that the
Mhm.
need for that, you know, even with the Canadian trucker protests, you know, how relevant that is.
Yeah, and even, you know, just at a kind of a, I mean, that kind of social need is massive, but even at a basic level for an artist or a musician, um, for them to be able to get into this and set something up where they can quickly sell their artwork to fans, um, is amazing, right? Without having to go through a gallery where the gallery takes 35% if you're lucky enough to sell something. So I think it's amazingly empowering for all different kinds of artists. And
Yeah,
yeah, I love that.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know, that's another great point. Like I was following like photography Twitter, crypto Twitter, for a while, a couple of years ago, and you know, you see like you have artists that are able to directly market to people that appreciate their art, like you said, without any intermediaries, and they get 100% instead of, you know, and also being kind of at the mercy of the gallery to promote or, you know, all of that stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, and we've seen the emergence of you know, digital and crypto native artists, emerge in the scene that are blowing past a lot of the legacy frameworks, right? I mean,
Yeah, and I think Banksy started some of that because his canvas was the side of a building or the side of a dumpster, um, and good luck trying to put that in a gallery, right? People tried to cut the wall out and take it away and sell it, but he was kind of one of the original people that was saying, I'm not going to put it in a gallery. It might not even last very long. So he knew what, if it is a he knew what he was doing.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, well, I certainly appreciate you taking the time out to chat with me today. It's been a lot of fun talking about your background, your your Pepes and your process, and also kind of some of the things going forward too. I'm really I know we're in a bear, but I'm still really positive about where crypto and vintage NFTs are going in the future.
Absolutely. Well, I truly appreciate you reaching out and taking the time to speak with me. Like, this was really cool, and I'm gonna share this with the family if they even want to listen to it. But uh, maybe in a few years' time they'll be like, "Oh, Dad, didn't you do a podcast?" So I appreciate like you reaching out and giving me this opportunity. Really tickled to have the chance to explain the background of some of them.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. And um, I still have a lot of work to do to go back and listen to the archives, all the stuff you put out.
This segment is a follow up with Everyday Earth. We're going to be covering his some of his commission work that he's done for Rare Pepes as well. So thanks for agreeing to talk about some of your additional work.
Yeah, thanks, Zero G. It's good to be back for this segment. And yeah, we've had a couple of offline discussions about commissions, and it's an interesting part of the project. So I got permission from a couple of the folks and excited to discuss them.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the cards that you did are on commission are super classics too. So, I'll kind of let you lead on which one you want to start out with.
Yeah, so I guess I need to start the lead into the conversation is that all of these that we're going to discuss were, were true collaborations. I was operating the Paint Shop Pro or GIMP tool in the background, but the creative process was driven by the people commissioning these. With the ones that I issued myself, I got inspiration from things that movies that I liked, music that I liked, artwork that I enjoyed, and then obviously memes that made me laugh. I couldn't tell you where the inspiration came from for these commissions because they all came from the creative juices of the folks that commissioned them. So I've got to give kudos, which is a good phrase to lead in with. One of the commissions was called "Give Kudos," but I've got to give kudos to the folks that commissioned these. These were all their ideas, and I actually really enjoyed the process. There was a lot of back and forth. Maybe starting out with 2 or 3 designs. So I guess if I back up, they would register an asset, right? Register an asset name, and then reach out to maybe several different artists and see who was interested. So that was how I got involved with some of these. They already had the asset name, they already had an idea, and in some cases, like a really strong vision of what they wanted the design to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because definitely you need to make sure that you have the asset registered. Otherwise, then you're not going to be able to get very far in that whole process.
Right, right. Yeah, some cases, like the folks that I got to know fairly well, they would send me like, hey, here's a list. Like, here's a list of all the ones that I think are cool asset names. What do you think we should, which one should we pick first? And I don't know how we settled on it, but the first one that I did, I went back through through the archives and looked at the date that it was created. I think the very first one I did was for Oliver, for Ollie, and it was Security Pepe.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. I know as soon as I saw that card in the directory with the animation, that was one I had to get.
Well, the John McAfee was heavily into crypto, and it's a fascinating story with everything that he did. So I know that Ollie wanted to pay tribute to McAfee, so he already had the asset Security Pepe. So we kind of brainstormed a couple of ideas, and you'll actually notice the background to Security Pepe is the Digimon, same as FRYPEPE. So we settled on that background, and he liked that. But pretty quickly he said, "Hey, I want it to be animated, right? I want it to be an animated GIF." So we dropped in the McAfee, and at the time I think everybody with a Windows laptop was used to that icon popping up every week or so, right? The McAfee virus protection. So we put the Mac Pepe total protection design in there. And then I was looking back through the layers. We got a GIF of like a data stream, zeros and ones, streaming through the background. So that was pretty quickly two of the elements that we put in there was the background and the Mac Pepe. And then obviously we needed John in there. So we found an image of John that we could pepify. And he's the guy that pops up every, I'm trying to get the timing down. It's maybe every 5 seconds he pops up on the card.
Yeah, that's a great feature of the card that I really loved. And like you said, like he was notorious in the crypto space back in the day for a lot of reasons. One of them being like basically a flagrant pump and dumper and just getting paid off by these scam coins.
Yep. I think I invested in an actual real, oh my gosh, I can't remember what it was. There was it was an actual security that he issued.
Oh, I wasn't aware of
Anyway,
that one.
yeah. Golly, I can't even remember the name. Anyway, it ended up being a penny stock. Oh my gosh. Anyway, he was behind it, and I was like, this is going to go. Maybe it was it may have been like a crypto mining stock. And it basically went to zero. So
Oh
that
man.
was, yeah, I'm not sure whether Ollie was aware of that when he linked the two together of it being security, or whether he was just thinking it was virus protection security. But yeah,
Oh
Security
yeah.
Pepe is one of my favorites as well, and it says hodl all your Pepes securely with patented total Pepe protection, and then the caveat is renew each year for maximum protections.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be like you said, it's one of my favorites too. Like when you in these commissions, so did you normally get like a percentage of the supply, or how did you work that? Like, because I would assume it'd be like rude to have to buy your own card or whatever from the, you know, like how'd that work?
Yeah, I think we worked out something where they would cover the cost of registration, right? Whatever it was, like whatever the entry fee was at the time. I think it was in Pepe Cash. So they would cover the cost of the Pepe Cash. And then I think for all of these, we just worked out a deal where I got, a certain number of cards, 10 or 20 cards or whatever it was based on the supply. And I was perfectly happy with that. I thought that was a really neat way of trading services for cards.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was how they all went down. So that was the first one. And Ollie's been really active. I mean, I think he was one of the youngest people in the community, and he had some really great ideas. really early on. Actually, you know what? I'm looking through the chronologically. It may have been Rare Pepe News that did the first one. He actually did Rare Pepe News as a Pepe.
Yeah.
Because he had the news, and then he had the auction house pretty
Hmm.
quickly after that. So I think maybe he may have beaten Ollie to the first commission. So I was going to pull
Yeah.
that one up.
So was there like the reference to Rare Pepe News, was he actually providing some sort of email list or like Telegram channel or something, or was um back in the day? What was it?
He is like he's an entrepreneur, you know, just very business minded, and
Mhm.
he has a lot of charity. I mean, does tons of charity stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think he just had an idea of, I can't remember whether it turned into an actual news channel, but I think it pretty quickly became the Rare Pepe Trader
Okay.
um, part of it. But he's gonna run me over the coals for not remembering the details on it. So yeah, you know, the Rare Pepe News was an animation. It was the background is, there's a bunch of cultural references in there. I'm gonna pull that one up. So the GIF is a famous um, media, you know, news publisher. Let me see if I can find that. But anyway, it was an animated one. We wanted to have this like old school feel.
Hmm.
Let's see.
Yeah, it
So
does
we
have
did a
like
kind of a,
that film slash distressed look to it.
it may have been William Randolph Hearst. Anyway, like I say, this is tough for me to recall because the people that commissioned them. Oh, it is William Randolph Hearst, because the final version of it has, on the power, it says Hearst equals 88, attack equals 24/7, and the element is paper. So Rare Pepe News, you know, for whatever reason, um, wanted a tribute to Hearst in there, and it says bringing you the latest news from the world of Rare Pepes. Tirelessly researching to highlight dankness and expose fake rares. That may be one of the first references to fake rares, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then that was his logo down there. The bottom right, the RPN, was his World News, Red Pepe News logo.
Yeah, he's definitely plur, like super prolific in the Pepe space, with his auction house and hustling in that regard too.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm looking back, the earlier versions, like I say, a lot of these went back and forth between myself and the commission, the person
Mhm.
who was commissioning them. And the very first one had rarepepenews.com. So we got rid of that, and then it just said news equals 24/7. So he changed that one to the, you know, it says Hearst equals 88. So there was definitely a lot of back and forth and tweaks to the things before they became the final version.
Oh yeah, because you couldn't have like a URL or a QR code in the card.
Right, yeah, that was violating the terms of the scientists, right?
Yeah.
So that was fun. I was going to see which one was next after that. Obviously, Ollie did a second one, um, which was a lot later on, but he wanted one for Pepe the Frog. So there was a lot of um, concern about Matt Fury. You know, he was not a fan of Rare Pepes at first, and I think he's since come around to the idea because it actually got him a lot of publicity, right? Um, it really boosted his name. And then it came full circle when he issued his own design. You know, they reserved a card for Matt, and he issued his own design. But Ollie, this was before any of that was resolved, right? And Ollie had this idea to do Pepe the Frog, which was kind of a save Pepe idea. So that, you know, that was his idea, and we pulled that one together.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember I remember a little bit from back in the day. Some of the talk about, them labeling it a hate symbol or whatever, but that documentary feels good, man, kind of made it a little bit more clear in terms of what was going on there. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely cool that he was trying to rehabilitate it, back then too.
Yeah, and he pushed that hashtag Save Pepe. You know, he did a lot of
Mhm.
work pushing that on. I think it was on Twitter. So you know, his message was join Matt Fury in making positive Pepe frog memes to battle against evil trolls. And he said, don't forget to share nice Pepes. So
That's cool.
it was a yeah, it was a cool message.
Yeah, definitely a nice one from back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, those were the two, Security and Security Pepe and Pepe the Frog. Those are the two that Ollie did. But he's actually created a lot more than that. You know, he's fairly prolific, and I know he's done a bunch of the other projects as well, fake rares and
Mhm.
danks and things. So he's still very active.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his other pieces. Yeah, he certainly is active.
So do you have any other favorites from maybe the ones that Rare Pepe Trader commissioned?
I one of the ones I think because of the colors that always stands out is that Pepetron one.
Yeah, yeah. Let me pull that one up. So I really enjoyed creating that one because I was getting into some techniques that the animation took forever. The lines that scroll across, you know, one set of lines goes left to right and the other set goes right to left. That took so long to do. Um, but I was playing around with how to make the text look neon.
Mhm.
Um, so I was really happy with that, how that one turned out.
Yeah, the
Um,
kind of glow effect, or like the way it looks, it really it like I said, it really is striking. You know, definitely a looker. Um,
and it's
yeah, I really like that one a lot.
this Rare Pepe means freedom, Pepetron.
Another one that I saw, I didn't know that it was a commission, but at the time, but the Pepe Dex one, as someone who used to, try trading back in the day, I just thought that was a super cool one.
Pepe Dex, yeah. So again, I think I did more animated GIFs as commission than I did. That seemed to be a real hot request, you know, from folks that commissioned these. Um, so we found a GIF of I used to do this every day. I would pull up whatever the big trading platform was at the time.
Mhm.
Um, maybe it was Poloniex.
Yeah, that was really
Anyway,
big.
one
Yeah.
yeah, one of them had like a really cool. I mean, you could watch things real time, right? So in contrast to like the regular stock market, where I mean, things like Robinhood didn't exist at the time, but it was kind of amazing that you could watch the market real time, right? And you could see these buy walls and sell walls being chewed through. Um, it was pretty fascinating to watch, and just to think that there were, you know, tens of thousands of people behind the green and the red bars that you were watching on the screen. So we wanted to throw that in there, that kind of real time view.
Yeah, definitely cool. Um, yeah, it's definitely a throwback. If you've ever traded it, takes you right back.
I don't. This could have. You'd have to interview Rare Pepe Trader. He may have actually had plans to release a Pepe Dex, right? I mean, I know we have um, there's a bunch of trading platforms, and the actual Rare Pepe wallet is probably one of the most used. But I think he was actually thinking of commissioning a product that would be called Pepe Dex. Like I say, definitely an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that certainly would be a good story. Yeah, definitely hustling. If he was planning to release a platform like that.
Yeah, and that was the tag at the bottom there, Be Alpha, trade on the Pepe Dex. That this was the official access card. So anyone that holds this, in theory, is holding an official access card to that Pepe Dex.
One card I think you were probably commissioned to do. Didn't you do the Pepe auction D or HD?
Let me pull that up. Pepe auction. No, I don't think I did that. So that features the Rare Pepe news. So I guess some of my work is featured in that. It has the Rare Pepe news logo, but Rare Pepe Trader commissioned someone else to do that.
Okay.
Actually, that one was released by Glenn. Glenn was always super active.
Okay.
Glenn Lopez,
Mhm.
and his involvement in the Telegram chat was one of the funniest things. He became infamous because he jumped he jumped in the Telegram and he said something that I think he was like trying to text somebody else, but he said it in the public chat, and he said straight afterwards, he said, "What the heck, delete." And every single day, somebody, whenever Glenn jumped in, they'd be like, "WTHD, what the heck, delete." So there you go, a little bit of folklore from the Telegram chat days.
Yeah. Well, cool. I thought you may have done it since you had done some of these other animated ones, but that was definitely cool.
Yeah, and that's on the card, right? On the Pepe Auction D card, I think Glenn shows up and he says WTHD.
Yeah. I thought it was cool too that it captured some of the old players, like even Meme Conscious bidding for a hair Pepe.
Yes. Yeah,
Cool.
there's
Yeah.
some OGs in there.
Yeah, for sure. So what would be the next commission you wanted to chat about?
So I really liked I enjoyed Neo Pepe. So Rare Pepe Trader actually did 3 or 4 from the Matrix series. And I was lucky enough to do Neo. He has a bunch of other ones that form that. I think he has like Morpheus, all the other characters, but I got to do Neo for him, and it's really dark though. It's like not dark theme, but actual dark colors. The contrast isn't very good, but there's a bunch of bullets that fly into the scene, and he's stopping them midair. And then he grabs hold of one, and it says, "There is no spoon." And then bottom left of that one, we did like an animation of the Matrix code.
Mhm.
But it's kind of hard to see. You have to kind of boost the brightness on your screen to see all the details.
Well, that's kind of funny that he had different artists do the different cards for that set.
Yeah, I kind of like, it made me want to collect them all because it was like a collection within a collection. Because he had, let me see, yeah, there's Trinity Pepe, and I couldn't tell you who did those other ones, but they're really cool. There's Smith Pepe. Um,
And
I
isn't
thought
there
he,
a reloaded one, like a Matrix reloaded one or something?
yeah, there's one called, isn't there one called Keck Reloaded?
Yeah, probably.
There's a bunch of Matrix themed ones out there. But Rare Pepe Trader got several of them before anybody else.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. Um, another one I thought was was really cool too was the Bernie Pepe, because he was really blowing up back at the time.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That must have been something that Rare Pepe Trader was pretty passionate about. Bernie thought that he was a Pepe to believe in, is what it says on the card. So, like I say, Rare Pepe Trader does a lot of charity work, and I think he was vibing with that idea of the 1/10 of the 1% owning, most of the wealth in the world. So he wanted to share that message. So we've got keep calm, feel the burn, and then it's that famous occurrence where Bernie was giving a speech and this bird flew down and landed on the lectern or the podium.
Oh, okay. I wasn't familiar with that. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. That was fun because it was a complete, there was maybe a loose original image from like a media clipping, but I like sketched that one out, just by hand. And it was the same with you'll see the same kind of style on Snowden Pepe.
Yeah.
So they were fun to do, to create like a really clean line drawing and then fill it in. So the bird was on its own layer. I think we did a couple different versions of the bird.
That's cool. Yeah, it's cool you're able to freehand that and have it actually be recognizable. And same thing with Snowden Pepe. I think it's cool he chose to, commemorate Snowden as definitely a influential figure in the, crypto slash, infosec freedom community.
Yeah, that animation was difficult because it's the Rubik's cube. It wasn't difficult to do, but it was like the initial figuring out what the layers would be. And it's actually the same animation put in there twice. It's like turned on its side. You have one side that
Oh yeah.
turns, and then the top piece turns. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that's cool, and it's definitely one of the fun like higher supply cards that you can still get cheap out there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think what else I did for Rare Pepe Trader. So there was Give Kudos was a cool project, and I think it's still active. If you go into the chat where Rare Pepe Trader, he rewards people, members of the community with that Give Kudos. And there's like a massive amount of those. The supply is huge, right? So
Yeah,
the
it's in
give kudos was, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
it's in the millions or billions or something. Yeah, it's a super high supply.
Yeah, and he would, if you joined the chat, you'd get like either 5 or 10,000 of them. So people loved it. But that one was fun. It was another hand drawn one, so it's Pepe as a Buddha or as the Buddha, and it has the counterparty symbol, has Bitcoin, and then it has I think it's the Pepe Cash. No, it's the Rare Pepe card in one of the symbols, and then it has this kind of glowing, glittery, sparkly outline.
Yeah, definitely kind of like a gold effect to it.
That one went through quite a few changes. It was actually called something else. It wasn't called Give Kudos. I think he had a couple different asset names. So we changed that one. Oh, it was called Pepe. It was called Pepe Kudos originally. So the give, we had to switch out. I don't know whether you can tell on the lettering, but the give originally said Pepe, so it's Pepe Kudos. So we
Okay.
just chopped that out and redid the outline and renamed it to give.
Yeah, that makes sense because the spacing is different on the give than the kudos part at the on the right.
Yep, yep. So there's that's what you can kind of see the history in the wording.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's see. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog snoring in the background.
No, I can't hear him. That's cool.
Um, so yeah, we already talked about Pepe decks. Pepe Hotep. Pepe Hotep was an interesting one. That one originally, if you pull up Pepe Hotep, I kind of wish I'd stuck with one of the original ideas for it. We had a version of it where it had there was an animated layer that was like, the kind of walk like an Egyptian animation.
Yeah.
And in a similar way to Little Bo Pepe, it had like these Egyptian figures that kind of walked across the screen.
Oh yeah, that would have
But
been cool.
it would have been cool, right? But we chopped that out and made it more kind of basic, but it's on that like papyrus scroll. Um, but this is it's an interesting one though because it's a combination that the if you read the power up at the bottom, it says I think he was thinking it would get into the game. Um, there were a team working on a game. Um, my memory is so bad. There was a game that was going to come out where you could essentially buy like a blister pack. They would have an interface, and you could buy a blister pack, and they would have this like animated opening of the blister pack, and then you could play the cards in the game. And a bunch of folks in the community, the guy behind it was John Villar,
Mhm.
um, and a bunch of folks in the community donated cards. So if you had like 1,000 of a design, you would send 100 to the vault that this game was gonna pull from and create the blister packs.
Mhm.
So on some of these cards, you'll see like an address that's essentially just frozen, right? No, there's no traffic. That address was the Rare Pepe game address that people donated to. So on some of these, you actually get a really good deal if it's a high issuance. If you find one where, let's say, somebody sent half the supply to the game address, that's really like burning it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just never going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure that especially since John is passed, I don't think there's any chance of that being resurrected, really, right?
Yeah, I know some folks. I think somebody in his family had figured out actually maybe how to access that wallet, and they, for a small time, they were saying, "Hey, if anybody wants their cards back, just let us know." But I was happier with it just staying there, right? It's like because he was a pretty amazing member of the community. Um, so feels right just to leave it there.
Yeah, and at especially like in terms of like gaming, you know, I think over time these are going to get more like even those original like the game cards were supposed to be super high supply, and there's for some of those there's not a lot actually circulating, and um I don't think you could have much of a game if if it costs thousands of dollars to you know play or whatever. I don't know what the intention is, but I don't think it like an actual game would be really that feasible, at least today.
Yeah, and the cost. Um, Trying to think the right way to say this. Like folks that don't, I mean, everybody just donated those cards to the
Mhm.
game, so the cost is essentially zero. So
Mhm.
I always thought it would be really fascinating to if they found a way to randomly generate a blister pack of 10.
Mhm.
You could get. I don't know how you would price it, but you could get some amazing cards in there, um, just from the ones that ended up being in the game address. So at
Yeah,
one point, I was really hoping it would come out. I thought that would have been amazing. It would be like a treasure hunt, but somebody probably would have figured out a way to bot the blister packs or something.
oh, for sure, because that would have been a lot of fun, like like you said, the thrill of cracking packs to, find rares. I mean, that could have been really cool.
Oh, it'd be amazing, right? It's like finding the original Pokemon packs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had some friends
Mhm.
that were used to be into Magic too. That was part of the thrill for them, is to, you know, see what you got out of your packs, sealed packs.
Yeah, right, right. I actually got into I really liked the NFTs on Wax on the Wax chain.
Uh-huh.
Because they're almost all like a blister pack, right? You buy a blister pack and you have this animated opening, and that's how I always envisioned this being for the Pepe game. Um,
Yeah, that definitely would you know, actually kind of like screw the game. That would be the game for me, but just buying a bunch of packs to see what I got.
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well,
Because
that was, that was the narrative, or well, I guess it was the sentiment, not the narrative. The sentiment in the chat was always that trading with each other and seeing what came out next, that was the game. It
oh,
wasn't,
okay.
I feel like, I feel like now the game is snag something at mint price and then it goes up 100x, which is fun, right? Obviously people enjoy when the price of something skyrockets, but that feels a lot more like gambling. I think the Pepe trading was more of like an artistic community, and we were all that was the game, was trading with each other. It was really fun.
Yeah, I know. I certainly like trading and building up my collection, finding new stuff I don't have. That makes sense because that's like when people talk about it as a game, like I always like kind of recoil because I've never seen a blockchain game that I actually wanted to play. I mean, maybe that's just me, but most of those, like, from a game perspective, look pretty terrible. So.
Right, right, yeah,
Yeah, and especially now that you know, for Ethereum, they went through their gas crisis, and uh, I know Bitcoin had its transaction fee spike too. I couldn't imagine anything on mainline Bitcoin or counterparty being viable, for like actually, game wise. So
yeah. And I don't understand. I know a lot of people are talking about the side chains and layer two. I don't fully understand the differences between those things, but yeah, it feels like I I mean, going back to Rare Pepe wallet, Rare Pepe wallet is still fun to use, and it was like really simple. Um, that made it, and I think still makes it more of a game. Going in and you can see which ones you own and which ones you don't, and there's a space on there called the big board, right, where you can go see what's available and what people are selling. Um, I just thought, well, that was always a really cool interface that
yeah, for sure.
yeah, that they coded up.
Yeah, that's a great wallet, and now we have that newer version, the RPW.WTF, that has pretty much all the old features, but also incorporates like hardware wallet support, and supports some of the newer collections like fake rares and fake commons and dank rares too.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I actually forgot about that. I've been browsing Pepe.wtf a lot, but I forgot about RPW.
Yeah, it's cool, like taking that the classic, which I don't think we're ever gonna update at this point, but taking that user experience and updating it to move forward with these new collections, and like I said, like ledger support too, which is huge.
Right, right. Yeah, that's really good. Bringing it back to security, Pepe, right? That security
Yeah.
piece is really important. Um, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah. You this conversation actually drug up some memories. Like you mentioned, the process, right? It's a really exciting process to go through when you commission a piece and you work with an artist. There were several that either they were rejected by the directory, or like myself and the artist just couldn't, myself and the commission owner couldn't figure it out, right? We just couldn't get there. And that does happen sometimes. And there was one I really liked called Startup Pepe. And he was like, because it was back in the days of Kickstarter, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there was Startup Pepe. That one never made it to the light of day. So I can't remember whether I ever shared that in the Telegram chat, but that would have been fun. And it was like it was Pepe pulling open his business. He has like a business suit on and a button-down shirt, and he's pulling open the buttons, and it says "Disrupt" on his t-shirt. I thought that was
Cool.
kind of cool. I would have liked to have seen that one go through. And
well,
then
with the ones that you guys got rejected, so what would you guys make another crack at it, or make another attempt, or did the guys just give up and not want to make another pass, or how'd that work?
There were a bunch of different reasons. I couldn't tell you the exact reasons for these particular ones. There was another one called Pepepreneur, and it was like an entrepreneur, and it was a guy like he's got a coffee in one hand and the big 80s cell phone in the other, and he's like kicking the computer screen. And I don't know, they'd be interesting if the people that commissioned them ever wanted, we've talked about the fake rares. You can actually get them into series 0 or season 0, right? If they were like an OG design and it was never accepted. So yeah, but that would be up to the folks that originally commissioned them. But I always thought it would be fun to resurrect those.
Yeah, for sure. That would be the perfect use case. Yeah, because there's been a bunch of other cool old tokens that have been, seen the light of day because of that series 0.
Yeah, and I get the assets are still out there, like Startup Pepe is a supply of 100, and it was issued 6 years ago. It just doesn't have the artwork tagged on it.
Oh, that's cool.
But there must be hundreds of stories like that, of old assets that never came to the light of day.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be, because there's just tons and tons of registered assets on counterparty. So,
Yeah.
And plus with, people that were trying to do it themselves for the first time, I'm sure that they probably had for every one that actually got submitted and was successful, there are probably like 3 or 4 that they kind of like couldn't figure out, or looked terrible or whatever, or just got rejected.
Yeah, and it's pretty off-putting or disheartening, right? When you invest. I mean, the investment really was time back then. It was time and energy, and when you get shot down, it's like I've felt it with some of the newer projects. I got my feelings hurt because you would submit a design and they didn't instantly love it, and then you've got to kind of check your ego, right, and take a step back and be like, well, I'm nothing special, so maybe I need to try again. And I would show my wife or my kids, and they'd be like, yeah, actually, it's not that good. Maybe you should try again. So, yeah, got to take a dose of reality sometimes.
That's pretty rough to have your kid or your wife be like, yeah, that's actually not good.
Yeah, and they would say, they'd be like, well, how long did you spend on it? Oh, so one that we didn't talk about that I'm actually really proud of is, and this is it's on the Wojak. What's the Wojak Way?
Yeah.
And it is called. Let me see if I can find it. Anyway, Wojak Way. I did one design and it got rejected, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go over the top and put like way more effort into what I'm doing. And I ended up doing like an oil painting and I videoed the oil painting, like the creation process. And that one made it in. I'd have to go find what it was called. Oh, it was called Proof of Wojak.
Oh, cool.
So if you look that one up, that was totally like a totally different creative process to get that one done. So if you look up Proof of Wojak, it's actually me painting it with a palette knife, and you see the, you know, it was like a riff on Proof of Work, right? So with different consensus models switching from Proof of Work to Proof of Stake, I was like, okay, I'm going to do one where it's Proof of Work showing you how the artwork is made.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I just pulled it up.
Now that physical painting is sitting in a cupboard, and my wife hates it. She's like, what? She's like, what are you going to do with that ugly painting? She actually really likes the background. She likes the sunset and the background of it, just not the goofy Wojak face that ended up being the final product. But yeah, he's sitting alone in a cupboard crying because nobody wants him.
That's funny.
There you go.
Yeah, the painting of shame just because of the Wojak.
Yeah, yeah. It's like what was the story? Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, that's my version of that, sitting in the attic in the cupboard.
Yeah, definitely cool. Yeah, I have a soft spot for the Wojak Wave stuff. I haven't had a chance to collect any or much of that, but I think the cards are super cool. Neat
Yeah,
project.
there's a lot of creativity in there, and I mean, some of these newer projects, just to stand out, you have to innovate. One of my favorites, if I was to talk about other artists that kind of push the boundaries, um, there's an artist that created. Have you seen Bell Pepe?
Yeah, AB is that artist. Yeah.
Yeah, that like I was like, that's crazy. That's so cool how they did the animation.
Did you see her
Um,
first one? To me, it's what made me like originally with fake rares, like some of the early cards, I thought that the project might not like take off or be worth following because I could definitely see that like if all the cards were just going to riff off of OG cards, it could get really stale. But when I saw her first card she dropped, which was the Bloomer, I was like, oh, this can actually work. It was an
yeah,
amazing piece.
yeah, and that one got away from me. I was like, oh, maybe I should buy one of those, and it just skyrocketed because everybody realized how cool it was. Um, yeah, that the fake rares has some amazing stuff. Like I know there's famous artists in there now, right? That are part of that project, but yeah, there were some really like some unknown artists that just came out with really innovative stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
they're
know
awesome.
you're a fan. We talked previously about you being a fan of Banksy. There's that really cool fake Banksy in there too. I thought was a really good mashup of that famous Banksy stunt along with the Nakamoto.
Where it shreds, yeah, it shreds
Yeah.
the picture.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorites is by someone called Zero G in there. No,
Yeah.
there's some really cool stuff in there. But I really like yours that uh They Live Pepe is awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really stoked with how that turned out. I think if the vintage NFT market plays out like I think it will, then that'll be kind of a nice throwback.
Yeah, I think all of these, and what so I was thinking after we recorded the first part, I was going it brought back a lot of other memories, and I was thinking the part of the genesis of Rare Pepes was kind of the same bear market that we're in. Bitcoin was just trading sideways, like it wasn't moving at all. The price was just completely stagnant, and a lot of people in the space were really bored. So, you know, everybody believed in it long term, but there was like nothing to do. It wasn't that exciting. Like that Pepe Dex chart, you know, you had to zoom all the way in to see any kind of movement. It was just, yeah, it was a bear market and it was pretty boring. So that created this, okay, what are we going to do? And not that anyone thought we were building a product, but it feels the same. It has the same kind of feeling with these newer projects, right? We're in a bear, and people have a lot of creative outlet that they can funnel into these things. So it's probably an amazing time to snap some of these up, if the
Yeah, I
prices
mean,
are affordable.
yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. You know, long term, you know, I'm super bullish on all this stuff, and I think people are going to be looking back, like right now with fake rares. There's a lot of these that don't like that are getting sold via Pepe Pawn Shop or the Pepe.wtf drops, where you know there's cards that end up getting burned down to less than 50 supply that are selling for like 75 or $100 each. So I mean, you know, if you believe that crypto art and Pepes are going to be a thing long term, I mean, that's pretty much a slam dunk, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's the same with Rare Pepe. There are designs that I still have not even seen, which is crazy to me. You know, I can go through Rare Pepe wallet and find stuff that I've never even noticed before. And it's almost overwhelming, you know, with all these other projects. Like I'm looking through now, and there's one called Fake Escape or Fake Escape, and it's a Banksy riff. Um, there's stuff in here that I would collect, and then there's the whole Hair Pepe. There are a bunch of
Yeah.
riffs on that. So there's Fake Hair Pep. Uh, just all these little themes, right? That you could go pull the thread on any one of these and just get lost collecting them.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, I like, you know, I'll do the same thing where I'll find cards that I hadn't noticed before in the OG directory. And you know, sometimes it takes a long time to even find one for sale that you're after, you know, because some of them, you know, there's not, you know, for you know some of the nerds like myself that get them, you know, you're not actually selling them, and there's not a ton of distribution on some of them. So I was
Right, right.
I was super stoked to get. I got like Pepe Club the other day, which is that like Fight Club, you know, like riff one. Anyway, thought that was super
Oh,
cool.
nice. Well, yeah. I mean, there's definitely. I need to make a like a wish list because things like, you know, I'd forgotten about Bloomer, but yeah, Bloomer by Artbat, that would be on the wish list. There's a bunch of them that I would just really like to collect. Um, so whenever I say, it feels like the Scarface meme, right? It's like you get pulled
Yeah,
back in whenever you think you can step away from it. You get pulled back in.
yeah. There's so many cards I like you that I want that I don't know. It's kind of a problem. I'd love to get the rest of Artbat's cards. She does great animation. You know, it's really cool how they usually end up looping too.
Yeah, yeah. That um, have you ever tried to get Artbat on the pod?
No,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh, I've got to retract. It's not Scarface, is it? It's Godfather. Good grief. I'm getting my movie quotes mixed up. Anyway,
right. No, I might try and reach out to her in the future. You know, again, I was really blown away with her work with, you know, with that. So definitely a super talented artist.
yeah, and I'm looking, you mentioned Wojak Banksy. I'm looking at that one by Mumbling Bearded Freak is the
It's
artist.
yeah, fake Banksy.
Wojak Banksy. I wonder if that's a copy. Wojak Banksy was in series two,
Okay.
but then yeah, there's fake Banksy as well, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a personal favorite.
Well, we went off on a tangent here for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, that's pretty easy to do when you're talking Pepe. So,
Yep.
sorry, I should have reeled myself in there. So,
No, this
uh,
is awesome.
yeah,
I wonder if I have one of those to I either have a fake Banksy or I have the other one. I think I actually like fake Banksy better with the Nakamoto. That's pretty
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So, yep. So anyway, yeah, this has been really fun. Like I say, it's triggered a bunch of memories from the archives, and um, it's going to be really exciting to listen back, and I'm going to decide whether I'll let my kids listen to it. I think I've managed to not cuss, but
I've tried too,
um,
so on my best
yeah,
behavior.
keep it PG, right? Family
Yeah,
friendly.
yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I think we covered most of your commissions that you wanted to talk about today. Are there any that you missed out that you wanted to touch on?
Well, I mean, the other ones, there's a number of other ones, but I just couldn't get. Sometimes the folks either don't want to be contacted or kind of fallen away. Um, so I'm going to leave those in the anonymous pile. But we talked about a bunch of my favorites, so I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, well, I certainly appreciate you taking the time out to chat with me about these. I want to make sure we got as much of your work on the record as possible, and it's definitely a lot of fun, talking Pepe.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm definitely looking forward to. I know we've got some trading to do. I want a They Live Pepe, so we'll have to figure that out in the back channel.
Truly a man of exquisite taste.
There you go.
All right.
Hey,
Well, thanks.
I know when something's dank and rare when I see it, and that's one of them. So there you go.
Well, thanks a lot. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Zero G, and I really appreciate you putting the time and effort into doing these.
Oh, no problem. It's a lot of fun.